Well, with alternatives, one of the things we did was we did a lot of things because it was the right thing to do. And so when we started peer jury, we went for a whole year just working out the relationship with the school. And we met with the law department and we said, is this legal, first of all, to do? They said, we've had this on the books for so many years. We just have not been able to make it stick. So they had the ability to do peer juries and do this, but to actually work through the relationships with the school, to share and negotiate with the principal, the assistant principal, with young people having a voice. That's a big risk because sometimes adults, we feel like we have to, and it's a power relationship. And so peer mediation was like so successful, so positive. And so when we started peer jury, they're like, okay, we're open. And when I created peer jury with the students that I was working with, I picked the kids who were really like the frequent flyers, the kids that were gang involved, the kids that were missing school, the kids that were on the honor roll, the kids that were athletes. Sometimes they were one and the same. And said, what could we do to help young people stay in school? Because kids were getting suspended for missing school. So if you're suspending a teen for missing school, they're already having trouble. So now it meant they're out of school longer. They may not be supervised. If they're getting in trouble and doing the wrong things, now they have more chance. And so I really felt it was important to have the voices of the youth who had lived experience and a very diverse range of lived experience. Create the program with us. And the youngest member who was involved was 14 years old. And he was funny because he was like, goofy, kind of coming out of middle school, but he ended up being like one of the strongest leaders on the team. So I think just to me it showed, the power of the students. And then there's one person else I would call out. There was a mother who lived across the street from Senn High School who didn't like the school. She said that she didn't like the teens. She would see them coming out of the school and they're getting in trouble and they're loud, they're doing stuff. And somehow we got connected, and she was a teacher, and so and she was very involved with social justice issues. And somehow we trained her, and she was also helping us create peer jury. We got her involved. And Mr. Ruiz, who was assistant principal, and as a mother, she lived in the neighborhood and she was one of our first trainers. So it was very beautiful to see that someone who was like really seeing the kids a certain way by the time, years after, being involved, how that changed her mindset and what she was able to give back and help inspire other parents and other people who were not working in the school to get involved. The state's attorney was bringing in restorative justice through Kathy Ryan, through the courts, the juvenile courts. And they were looking for models that they could show to the community around. This is an example of what can be a restorative practice. So it was the community panels for youth, it was the victim impact panel, and peer jury. So we started going out and talking to communities all over the city about we were learning about restorative justice, but also we knew punitive was not helping. I kind of feel like it's not just me, because what happened was alternatives had a chance to take that model out all across the city. And so what happened was we got approached by the Juvenile Justice Court to expand our model and to take it into the Chicago Public Schools. And So, and that was a learning ground, and so all that talking in different communities and sharing and being vulnerable, because we didn't have the answers to everything. We were learning as well, right? But we got invited to take on this contract, and I believe it was with 24 schools. And so again, working with Judy, talking with her, I mean, really her helping mentor to the process, because this was all new. I formed a advisory committee, because I was only one staff and I was going to go to 24 schools. Like, how the heck am I going to do that? And there were schools, they were not schools where they were selected. They were from the most, quote, highest functioning to schools that were really, really struggling. And the communities were in a lot of turmoil because of different things that were happening. Very diverse. So what happened was I formed an advisory committee, and I said, this is a project that we're going to be doing, and we need people to I just made kind of a rallying cry. We're going to teach you the model, and please come and help train. So basically we formed a cadre of trainers, and it was everyone from the state's attorney to the Illinois, what is it called? Illinois, oh my God, state's attorney, the juvenile court, teachers, advocates, parents, social workers. It was a wide gamut of people from all across the city. And so I trained them in the model, but then they were also working, so it was also bringing their wisdom in too, and that helped us also engage the model. And so when we would go out to the city and do our trainings, we brought a crew of 10, 15 trainers, and they were all professionals, like Cheryl Orashub, Peter Newman, there were so many of them, and that's how we formed a little community, because one person doing it alone was not sustainable, and they didn't fund more than just one person initially. But it was very beautiful, because you just learned so much from each other, and you also had this really great support system for the kids. The things that are changing to stay at the cutting edge and creative and innovative sounds easier than what it is, because the day-to-day work. But to keep that edge of the day-to-day, but the day-to-day is always informing the next step. That's why peer jury is, because we kept listening to the kids about what was not working with them for the school. Why were they standing out in front of the school trying to get back in the school because they had been suspended, and not finding a way to do something differently? And then peer jury came out of that dialogue, that conversation with the school, with the kids, with their families, with the organization. And so I think keeping, it's kind of this magical mix that keeps the organization fresh and innovative and relevant to what the kids need and their families.